Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Ukraine has said it is ready to accept an immediate 30-day ceasefire with Russia proposed by the US after a day of US-Ukraine talks in Saudi Arabia. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio said he would present the offer to Russia and that the ball is in their court. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky said it was now up to the US to convince Russia to agree to the positive proposal. In a joint statement, the US also said it would immediately restart intelligence sharing and security assistance to Ukraine, which Washington had suspended after the unprecedented public row at the White House.
We're going to bring it to them directly. We're going to say that Ukraine is prepared to stop all battlefield activity and begin the immediate process of negotiating an enduring end to the war. And we'll see what the response is. If their response is yes, then we know we've made real progress and there's a real chance of peace. If their response is no, it would be highly unfortunate and it would make their intentions clear. Now we all eagerly await the Russian response and urge them strongly to consider ending all hostilities.
Pakistan's army says it has freed more than 300 hostages from a passenger train seized by militants in Balochistan province on Tuesday. The military spokesperson said 33 militants were killed during the operation. 21 civilian hostages and 4 military personnel were killed by the Baloch Liberation Army before the operation began, the military spokesperson said. The military continues its search operation in the area to rule out any remaining threats. The Pakistani authorities, as well as several Western countries, including the UK and the US, have designated the BLA as a terrorist organization. Greenland's centre-right opposition has won a surprise general election victory in a vote dominated by independents and the US President Donald Trump's pledge to take over the semi-autonomous territory. The centre-right Democratic Party, which favours a gradual approach to independence from Denmark, achieved around 30% of the vote. His party will now have to negotiate with other parties in order to form a coalition. Greenland, the world's biggest island between the Arctic and Atlantic Oceans, has been controlled by Denmark nearly 3,000 kilometres away for around 300 years. Somali security forces have ended a deadly 24-hour siege by Islamist fighters who stormed a popular hotel in the central city of Beledweyne. The attack by al-Shabaab gunmen began when a car bomb exploded following gunmen entering the hotel, leading to intense clashes with security forces. The mayor said 7 people had been killed in the attack, but witnesses said the death toll could be higher. The raid at the Kahira Hotel took place as politicians, security officials, and traditional elders were meeting to discuss plans for an offensive against al-Shabaab in central Somalia.
Do you and your tariff policies right now bear any responsibility for the turmoil we're seeing this week?
Biden gave us a horrible economy.
The UK is pushing for a trade deal with the US as tariffs imposed by US President Donald Trump on imports of steel and aluminium take effect. The import tax introduction sparked an immediate response from the European Union on Wednesday, which said it will impose counter tariffs on billions of euros of US goods. The UK did not announce any tariffs in response as it works towards a wider economic agreement, but the Conservatives said Labour had no plan. Mr. Trump hopes the tariffs will boost US steel and aluminium production, but critics say it will raise prices for US consumers and dent economic growth. The government of Portuguese Prime Minister Luís Montenegro has lost a vote of confidence, almost certainly pitching the country into its 3rd general election in barely 3 years. MPs voted against him by 142 to 88 with no abstentions, toppling his right-of-centre minority government. The confidence motion was tabled by the government itself after the opposition socialists announced plans for a parliamentary inquiry into Montenegro's business dealings. And Spotify paid the music industry $10 billion in 2024, which the streaming service says was the highest annual payment from any single in history. But the figures come as a heated debate continues about how much money artists and songwriters receive in royalties. Earlier this year, several Grammy-nominated songwriters boycotted an awards event hosted by Spotify in a row about their streaming earnings. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.